Hi everyone, I am Heather, and I want to welcome you to Magnificent Authors Podcast, brought to you by Magnificent Mamas. This is the show where we'll celebrate the magic of storytelling and the power of words. I'm your host, Heather, and each week I'll be sitting down with incredible authors from all walks of life to explore their creative journeys, uncover their writing secrets, and delve into worlds they create. Whether you are an aspiring writer, a passionate reader, or simply curious about the minds behind your favorite books, this is the podcast for you. So grab a cozy blanket, pour yourself a cup of tea, and get ready to be inspired by the magnificent authors who join us. Let's dive in. Hi everyone, I am Heather with Magnificent Mamas and Magnificent Authors Podcast. We're joined here today with author Kitty and Pawell. Is that right?
Close, but you got it.
Okay. Kitty, would you like to introduce yourself?
Hi, I am Kitty Ann Pawell, and I am a first-time author. I came out with my debut last year, and I am coming out with my book too this year, and we'll talk about that later.
Yay. Can you tell us a little bit about your first book that came out?
Of course.
Last year?
Yes, ma'am. So my first book, Less Drunk Nights, it is book 1 in the Kiss and Tell trilogy. It is about an indie author like me, but unlike me, she's successful. I will be successful one day. But it is yes, it is a tell-all of her sexual exploits, because it is a very spicy book, and it is a Why Choose themed book. So if you are into that, this is the book for you. She has 3 women and 3 men on her roster, and she's rotating them out. She starts out with 5. 3 guys, 2 girls, but Melanie Thompson, who is our college student and editor and aspiring author, bump into each other at a coffee store, and that's where the tale picks up, and it gets really interesting because you have Mel, who is obsessed with every book that Rose Thorne has ever written, and Rose, who just is like, she's kind of hot, I like her, and they start to open up each other's lives a little bit. It's really, really cool.
Interesting. It sounds interesting. So, very spicy.
Very spicy. Very spicy.
18 and up, I'm assuming, at least.
Most definitely. Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Was it hard to write that spicy of scenes, or just comes natural?
Yeah, it comes natural to me. I'm a bit of, I mean, everybody's weird in their own way, but I'm a bit of a weirdo. So it doesn't bother me or anything like that. Those are mostly like experiences, dreams, and things to that nature. But before I became published, I was already writing. I had a erotic blog where I was writing fantasies. So this was inspired by one of those that I'm like, this could be a whole book. And it is. It's now a whole book.
That is awesome, though. You're so psyched. I love it. I love your enthusiasm. Yeah, but I mean, how can you not be excited about your book? So,
yeah, it's true. You should be excited about your book at least a little bit.
Definitely. What would you say the hardest part of writing your book was?
Okay, so the hardest part would have been, technically in book 1, we don't fully discuss it, but there is a part that Rose falls asleep and she has a nightmare and wakes up Melanie, and Melanie, of course, wants to discuss it, but that's just like a no-go for Rose, and it's just like, nah, I'm not talking about that. Writing and talking about the nightmares aren't very fun because they're based off of what happened to me. So, of course, thinking about that isn't fun, but that would be the hardest. It wasn't really hard because I wanted it in there. I wanted it to be talked about. I wanted it to be brought up because so many people go through those experiences and don't talk about them, and they shape your life. They really do. So ignoring them doesn't really help anything. So I wanted it in there so it wasn't hard to write it per se, but it wasn't fun to talk about it or think about it.
Yeah. And just getting it out there helps.
Yeah,
a little bit.
exactly. Because then someone can read it and is like, "Oh, this is me," and at least look at how Rose is dealing with it, and she's not dealing with it in a good way. Let's see how she's dealing with it, and maybe can choose a different path on dealing with it that would be better for them and healthier for them.
Sounds interesting for sure.
Yeah.
Curious.
Hey man,
So
pick it up.
I will have to do that for sure. I love the cover, by the way. It's very
Thank
cute.
you. Thank you. Thank you.
I don't know if cute's the right word, but it worked for me, so.
It works for me too. It's not ugly. So cute works.
Yeah. That's not like saying, I'm not quite sure how I think of that cover.
Yeah, exactly. I want you to know how you feel. So if cute is the first word, that's cool.
It's the first word that came to my mind, but I only had a quick glimpse of it too. But so tell us a little bit about your next book and when does it come out?
Okay, so book 2, that is Desire Drenched Days. So book 2 of the Kiss and Tell trilogy. Now this is picking up basically right where book 1 left off. Book 1 does end on a small cliffhanger, very small. You could jump from it. You wouldn't hurt anything. Very small, but it does pick up right where we're leaving off, and it is going through Melanie becoming more confident and more sure of herself and asking and taking what she wants, and Rose breaking down those barriers that she has had up for pretty much all of her, I'd say all of her teenage to adult life.
Yeah.
She's had a wall up, and she's slowly taking those bricks out and allowing her, not only her people that are in her life to get closer, but Mel most definitely to get closer. That's where that picks up off from. I'm sorry. It is
Yeah.
coming out June 27th. And it arcs are releasing May 27th. So excited. So excited.
That
And it
sounds
is
fun.
spicier than book 1. So if you're not ready for the spice, I don't recommend my books at all. But if you want the spice, then pick them both up because you'll need them in your life.
I've never really read something that spicy, I don't feel like.
Okay.
I know, like, this is a horrible example, but like in the fantasy books, like the werewolf stories, there's some very graphic details of adult relationships. We're gonna put it like that in case there's people, I don't want to offend anyone.
Yeah.
But I think that's like the most graphic of the books that I've read. So reading something like yours might be a little interesting.
Oh yeah, it'll so now spice is a determinal factor for everybody. It's different.
Yeah.
So I'm saying it's very spicy because I know it's very spicy because I wrote it, and
Yeah.
I have a lot of feedback from my friends who have read snippets and things and who have read book 1. So that's where I'm basing that off of. But it is very graphic in detail, and you will feel like you are there. So that's the point. I wanted to paint that picture.
That's not a bad thing. I mean,
yeah,
you're writing what you love, and a good writer, you can feel it, you can see it. You're right there. So
yeah, that's what I want. I want you to immerse yourself. So, but I do give a warning in book 2. There's an introduction. I've never done an introduction before. So book 2 does have an introduction. And in that introduction, it does advise and warn that you should at least have your significant other or battery operated boyfriend close at hand. Because you're going to want those things. Or be highly skilled in one-handed reading. That is the only warning I'm going to give you.
Oh, damn. That is wild.
I'm just being honest. I'm just being honest.
That is some graphic detail.
Oh, yes.
Very intriguing graphic detail, but graphic detail. I'm not going to lie. You kind of got me curious and kind of stunned at the same time. Like, Okay, mind blown for a minute there. What do I say next?
I know, it's my face. I look all innocent, but I'm not.
No, I don't think anyone could accuse you of that.
I have been accused of it. I have. It was actually very funny. I don't know where she got that from, but she's like, "You just look so innocent." I was like, "Oh, okay." And then she saw some of my videos from my book. She's like, "But you're not that innocent." I was like, "You are correct."
That's funny. That's awesome. What would you say your favorite types of books to read are?
So okay. I love fiction, period.
Mhm.
But if I had to go through life only reading, a specific subgenre of
Mhm.
fiction, it would be paranormal romance, specifically Sherilyn Kenyon. I'd read her books over and over again. I don't care. Or hmm, I could do fantasy. I'm not against it. It's not my job. I would rather do like urban fantasy more than high fantasy or even low fantasy because
Yeah.
it's cool. It's just the names. They're choking hazards. It takes me out of it because I'm like, what the hell is your name? I can't even
That's
see
why
it.
you gotta go with easy names.
Yeah, exactly. Or at least I love when authors, whether they be indie or trad, put a glossary somewhere in the book so I can actually pronounce the word, so I can look at a pronunciation guide or pronunciation guide. Goodness gracious. That makes me happy because then I don't feel like an idiot when I'm like, what is your name?
Dude, I had this one character and I've changed his name 3 times now. And the first name, the character is his dad is Hispanic American. The
Okay.
mom is Asian. I
Okay.
think Chinese. I'd have to look at my notes. I'm going off of memory here. And so he had a really long Asian name.
Okay.
And so I changed it, but it was hard to pronounce to a different
Okay.
name. Then I changed it again to something else, like a 4-letter name. I was like, okay, this is it. No more changing the name. So his name
Yeah,
is Steamy.
no. I mean, I'm not against fantasy. I've read fantasy. I like it. It's cool. I'm a Camelot person, so things that have to do with the round table, I think that is cool. Things that have to do with Merlin, I think that is awesome. But if you have a name that
that
is
you
a
can't
choking hazard,
pronounce.
it's just annoying. It's like, why is it so hard?
See, I was trying to go authentic, and then I was like, well, if I have to look up how to pronounce it, everyone else is gonna have to look it up. And
Exactly.
granted, I did give him like nicknames like
Yeah.
that involved bloody and stuff like that because his name started with a B, and
Okay.
he has these educational moments,
Okay.
and he gets a little vicious, but
Oh, okay. Cool. I'm picking up what you're putting down. I shorten their names. I just shorten their names in my head because I ain't got time. I ain't got time to be looking at that many letters. I want to move on. So I just
that's why
shorten their names.
I changed the name to like Bane, so it's easy. Like
I like
anyone,
Bane. I can do Bane.
anyone can pronounce it, and we're just leaving it at that.
Yeah. I think that'll work.
Definitely. Sorry about that.
No problem.
Tell me how you got started writing.
So I've been writing since I was 7, but I guess my start of writing was my mom and my grandmother. They always took me
Mhm.
to the bookstore when I was a kid, and they took me to the library. So I always had a love and a thirst for books. And then as I read the books and I got a little bit older, because I've been reading since I was 2,
Oh yeah.
I'm like, well, all these fun adventures. I want to go on an adventure. I want to take someone and put them on an adventure. So I was like, well, the only way I can do that is by writing. So I had started writing. One of my poems had been published in a poetry book that was local to Detroit. That was
Okay.
cool. But
Is that
I
where you
had,
is Detroit?
yeah, I live in, well, I'm from Detroit.
Okay,
Detroit,
I
Michigan.
was born in Detroit. So
Cool.
You would never
No.
expect that, but
Hey, I don't know where anybody's from, so I make no judgment. They tell me they're from D-Town, I'm like, hey, what's up? That's it.
that's crazy. That's funny.
That is cool. So yeah, so then I don't know when you left, but if you remember, there's a Detroit Public Library on the
I
street
was
of
like
Fayetteville.
I was like 2 or 3, so I was
Yeah, you
little.
were young. You wouldn't know.
No,
Street signs meant nothing to you,
no.
but
Most of the burners and ways are out the window.
exactly. Um, I was writing, but and now I've learned the name for it, imposter syndrome. I kept telling myself that I wasn't good enough. And I kept telling myself that I wasn't good enough and nobody will like it. Even though I should have gave myself more credit because my erotic blog, I had 11,000 people read that.
Okay.
So it's like people do actually read it and do like it. It's just I just kept still telling myself that, and that wasn't even edited. That was unedited. So it's just like, imagine what it would be edited.
That's crazy.
And I just kept telling myself that. But then TikTok, even though it might die, but still, TikTok did really change a lot of things for me because I got to see this indie author community, which I already planned to self-publish. But the fact that there was actual community of people that were doing this, that could give you those tips, that could help you out, you could ask questions and actually get real answers. That was just like, okay, they are living their best indie life, and I want to live my best indie life, so I need to write my book. And so I started last year in November. Sorry, not last year, the year before, 2022. Started in November. I did not do NaNoWriMo because I didn't know about it, but I started in November.
I could not.
Yeah, I mean, I could if I cared enough to be constrained. I don't care enough to be constrained, so I do it on my own time. But I finished it in May of last year, and it came out in August.
Oh wow, that's quick.
Yeah, it was quick. This book was quicker though. Book 2, I started in November again. I don't know what's with November. Don't ask me. I just started in November. And then I finished in February. So this one was quicker. But it just came out and I was like, yeah, this is awesome. I'm writing, the words are coming. It's awesome.
Do you ever get like stuck? Like,
yes. So that's another one of my reasons. The smaller reason was not thinking I was good enough. The bigger reason was writer's block. I kept getting stuck. But I have developed a trick now. I'm not saying I came up with this trick, but this is what I started doing. Because book 1 almost didn't happen because I had written chapter 1 and I got stuck on chapter 2.
Oh no.
What is happening? So, and I started writing chapter 8 and then 9, and then I went back to 2 because I remembered where I wanted to go. Finished 2, went all the way back up to 8. 8 became 9 because I pushed it back. And it just, so now what I do, what I'm getting stuck is I jump to a different chapter. And start writing that.
Do you outline, I'm assuming?
Not really. Not the actual outline, but if there's an idea, or I'll just put a sentence of what I want to happen in the story, and then I just put it in the document, and I'll figure out what chapter it's supposed to be. But I'm just like, okay, we're gonna have a birthday dinner here, so I'll just put that there, birthday dinner, in big bold, and just leave it there. And somewhere it'll end up. I don't know yet, but it's there.
I definitely couldn't be one of these writers that outline, although it might make sometimes when you have a little blockage going on, might make it work better. I've got like a whole bunch of chapters over here and then some random chapters that came over here. So it's like, these got to get connected one of these days.
Yep. I do organized chaos. Doing an outline is too organized. And no, it doesn't make my brain happy. I do like chaos, but I like organized chaos. So my best friend thinks I'm crazy because I jump chapters, but I'm like, it really helps me though. Then I don't get stuck.
I have to jump books.
Well, that too.
Mine are standalones in a series, and I have to go different books.
Yeah.
So
That's
like there's
cool.
interconnected characters throughout, there's interconnected events.
Okay.
And yeah, I cannot stay with just one
Yeah.
book at a time, especially when I'm trying to weave events through them all, you know?
Okay.
So
Yeah, makes sense. But when you set yourself up like that, it helps you not get stuck because you have so much going on. You're like, okay, this isn't jiving right now. I don't know what I want to do with you, so I'm gonna just go over here and start working on this.
have you ever had somebody like you start the story and they're going to be one way? Now, I wouldn't necessarily say like a villain in your story, but like I'm using that as an example, but you have an
Yeah.
idea of how this character is going to be. You come back and the character has totally changed and is somebody totally completely different.
Yes. I won't name names so I don't spoil anything for you, but
Yes, no
in book
spoilers.
1, there was a character that was supposed to be taken off of the roster completely. They were going to be there for like one chapter and then they were getting kicked out of the whole book.
Okay.
They decided that fuck that idea and came back with a vengeance. And I'm
Oh,
just like,
shit.
whoa, you're not supposed to be here. You were supposed to be gone. They're like, nah, you're not getting rid of me. And I'm kind of glad I didn't because I do enjoy their chapter, the comeback chapter. And I absolutely love the chapters that they have in book 2. So I'm just like, I guess I was going to keep you. I guess I lied to myself.
That's awesome. That's funny. Yeah, I've had a villain go and become a good guy.
Okay.
But will not become a good guy, but everything they did through their entire life that everyone thought was bad was for a big event and
Okay.
was for the good side.
Ah, okay. Okay, cool. Got some vigilante or some morally gray characters.
Yeah, let's go morally gray for sure.
Cool.
Definitely. What do you wish you would have known before publishing?
Oh. Um, that's a heavy question. What I wish I would have known. Okay, and I might have known this, but I didn't realize that I knew this. One of the biggest things is when you publish your paperback, publish it in Ingram and Amazon at the same time because they do not talk to each other and it can screw up your orders. That was the most annoying thing in the world. But I got it fixed. It was cool. I know now for this time.
I was just talking to somebody earlier about like the ISBNs and Ingram Sparks and
yeah. It's just that's why I'm happy of the community I have because it's you just really don't understand how much it is to be an indie until you're actually doing it. The like you said, all the ISBNs, how expensive they can be. I mean, one of my friends, she actually paid the 500 to get the 100 of them, and I'm like, I can't afford to do that. That's like a whole check for me. So I wish I could, because then I just have them and be done. But there's different tips and tricks. Like for instance, I'm doing a Kickstarter for a special edition hardcovers for book 1. So I designed the cover and everything, and it has not safe for work art on the inside cover, right? So here's a trick. Instead of actually having the hardcover for sale and it go to all these different stores, you don't use one of your, because then you lose one of your ISBNs. You use Ingram's ISBN, and then you just get author copies of it and you sell it on your website. That way, all those funds come to you. Ingram's not getting anything except for like the $13 it is to make this thing. But it's just a cool trick, and then all of them, they will come with sprayed edges, which this is a quote from book 1, and it says, I will leave you wet, needy, and unsatisfied. So that just gives you a little taste. But that's a cool trick, because of course, you would just use your ISBN, you'd order it, and then everybody could order it, but maybe people are not ordering it from you, so you're only getting the royalties. Whereas this will be me exclusive, so you can only get it on my website after the Kickstarter, and you can only get it at signings that I'm at. So it's cool stuff that I find out more and more after I've published, and I format my own books. So that was fun. It's a little traumatizing at first because Atticus is evil, but after I figured it out, it was simple. But those first steps, I was like, how do you do this?
I've definitely been learning a lot today, that's for sure. Especially about Ingram Sparks. This must be one of their days.
Yeah, Ingram Sparks, it's so helpful because you can't get into stores without it. You have to have Ingram Sparks because if you're just Amazon based only, no bookstore is going to pick up your book because they're not going to buy it from Amazon. You have to have it from Ingram. So it is a necessary evil in order to do that. But I have heard a lot of people do Draft Digital. I've heard a lot of people do Barnes and Noble for their printing and stuff like that. So there's other options, but they all come with their own pros and cons. None of them are good, but none of them are bad per se either. They are they're there.
Yeah. I heard that if you don't have Ingram Sparks, that like you won't get into a library or anything like that.
Yep. Library, bookstores, you have to have Ingram. Or at least or Barnes and Noble. Well, you might know I don't know with Barnes and Noble because that could be tricky because you might only be able to go into Barnes and Noble stores printing through Barnes and Noble. They might other stores like Books A Million or libraries might not buy from Barnes and Noble. So I don't know. I can't speak on that, but I know for a fact you have to have Ingram in order to be in Books A Million, to be in Barnes and Noble, to be in libraries. And the easier way to get into libraries is by having a hardcover. They prefer to have hardcovers because then they get less damage than a paperback, which makes sense.
Oh yeah,
completely makes sense. But hardcovers are expensive to print, so it's just like, look, man, I ain't got money for that. So I might not be in any libraries, which sucks. I would love to be in a library, but I don't got the money. So we'll see. Maybe I'll have the money one day.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe one day. And it doesn't happen overnight, so I mean, it takes time.
Yeah.
Definitely.
It does.
Sorry, I'm like fidgety because I'm trying to quit smoking, so I keep hand to mouth movement. I said that on my last call too, and I was like, I'm not normally moving this much. So
doesn't bother me.
Well, I'm glad it doesn't bother you either, so. What is some advice you'd give to upcoming authors?
My biggest thing is to just write. And I know people say that, but ultimately you have to get out of your own head because you thinking that you're not going to be good enough, that no one's going to like it, that you're not going to find your audience. Those are all true possibilities. But on the other side is somebody could like it. Lots of people could like it. You could find your audience immediately. The point is you'll never know. And I told my little sister this because she wanted to start doing a horror series and she was giving me those same things. I'm like, well, how are you going to know unless you write it? How are you going to know unless you push publish?
Yeah.
There's absolutely no way for you to know until it's out there. Yes, that is scary. Ooh, that is really scary. I'm doing it twice. It was terrifying last year. It's terrifying this year. But the point is, it's going to be terrifying next year too. And there's no way for me to know if someone's going to like my book unless it's out there for them to be able to pick it up or grab it on their Kindle and read it. And then they'll either like it or they won't like it. But you know what? I wrote it. It was written for me. Other people liking it is extra.
Yep. And it feels good just to know one person liked it.
Exactly.
Now, obviously, you want a bunch of people to like it.
A bunch of people. But hey, you got, let's say out of 10 people, 5 people liked it. That's 50% right there. Mm-hmm. And then you just times that by 100, 500, whatever. And you keep growing in your numbers. But of course, that comes with marketing. But it's just like, just aim for that one person or those 5 people of the people that you share it with to like it. You're done. You're done after that. Everything else is extra.
Yeah. It's a whole huge process, that's for sure.
Yeah. Yeah, I would say being an indie Well, I guess being a trad, I don't know how hard it is. I know it's not easy, but I don't know how hard it is because I didn't go through traditional publishing, so I can't speak for that. But being an
Mm-hmm.
indie is not for the faint of heart. It really isn't. Because you get your feelings hurt real quick if you do not have a thick skin because it comes to reviews or it just comes to people being assholes for no reason, which unfortunately there's a lot of that, which I don't understand because you didn't write anything.
Yeah, right.
You didn't publish anything. Why are you hating that hard? If you didn't like it, you didn't like it. That's fine. There are a lot of books I don't like, but I'm not disrespectful.
I like the ones where you can tell they didn't read the book, but they're leaving a negative review.
Love those. Those are fascinating because you catch them so quick, and that's the funny part. It's like in the first few seconds, like, did you read this book at all? Because that's not what it's about. Where did you get that from?
Definitely.
Awesome.
I definitely am gonna have to look into it for sure.
I hope you do. I hope you do and you enjoy it.
Yeah, for sure. Thank you so much for joining us today. It's been really fun getting to know you and connect with somebody else from the Detroit area and whatnot. So it's been awesome. And thank you so much for joining us. Everyone, don't forget to check out Kitty's books. Don't forget to like, subscribe, comment, and share as well. And that's a wrap on another episode of Magnificent Authors Podcast. Thank you so much for joining me today. It was a pleasure to share another inspiring conversation with a talented author. If you enjoyed this episode, don't forget to subscribe to Magnificent Authors Podcast so you don't miss any of our upcoming conversations with amazing writers. And be sure to check out Magnificent Mamas on our website, which is www.magnificentmamas.us, or on our Facebook page for more inspiring content from incredible authors. I'd love to hear your thoughts on today's episode. What resonated with you the most? Head over to Facebook or leave a comment on our website and let me know. Until next time, keep reading, keep writing, and keep those imaginations soaring.